municipality, the province, and the federal government, which we're tremendously thankful for. We achieved this by offering a mixed market rent model. Not every tenant here will pay deeply affordable rents, although many will, but others will pay slightly below market rent. That mix of rents allows us to ensure a robust capital reserve, keeping this housing well maintained forever. We're in this for the long haul, and we do it without operating losses or the need for ongoing government subsidy. It will be paid for by the taxpayer once, and then operated sustainably financially. Our projects demonstrate that this type of housing is a great deal for government and an even better deal for community, ensuring that quality, affordable housing is not here just for a set term, but forever. I also want to take a brief moment to recognize Jim Graham, who retired earlier last year as ED at AHANS before I took on the role. Jim is the visionary behind this project, and without his leadership and tenacity, this place would never be possible. Adrian Sala, our Director of Planning and Development, will tell you more about the project here today.
Thank you, Michael. We're so excited to have everyone here at True North today. True North is a mix of, there's 4 buildings in total with a mix of 44 townhouses. Units range from bachelor to 1, 2, 3, and 4 bedrooms. It was really important for us to design spaces that met the needs of diverse household sizes. All 4 buildings are also net zeros. They produce as much energy as they consume. I'd like to give a big thank you to Passive Design Solutions, who are the lead architects on this project. They were critical to ensuring that we met our energy targets, as well as Dora Construction, who is the builder of the project. They've been great on the ground to work with and really brought this design to fruition. So thank you so much to both of our partners. We're proud to say this project stacks funding from all 4 levels of government. So we received the land from Halifax Regional Municipality, contribution for the provincial government through the Department of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and then funding from Federation of Canadian Municipalities. Finally, our partner CMHC has been instrumental in bringing this project to what it is today. 3 of the buildings were financed through the co-investment fund, which also provided a non-repayable contribution, and then the 4th building was funded through the Rapid Housing Initiative, which is one of the only projects in Nova Scotia that was funded through the project stream. We've had an amazing experience working with CMHC so far, and we're excited to partner with the federal government on future projects. So thank you so much.
I'd now like to introduce Mayor Mike Savage, Mayor of the Halifax Regional Municipality.
Thank you very much, Michael. Good afternoon, Prime Minister, Minister Fraser, members of Parliament. It's great to have you in town for this important announcement for the Halifax Regional Municipality, as well as cities and towns across the country. I want to acknowledge that HRM is located on the ancestral, traditional, the unceded land of the Mi'kmaq people. We believe that we are all beneficiaries of the peace and friendship treaties signed in Mi'kmaq. I want to also say how nice it is to see Claudia Yan here today, who has been working in this field of housing for many, many years. It's great to see you again, and others, former head of AHANS who's with us here today, and many others. The national and local housing crisis demands that we find new and better ways of working together across orders of government, with the community sector and with the development community. And we need to be nimble, creative, and open to new ideas from all corners. Just as we need to recognize that the ambitions we hold for the future of this wonderful city won't be met if people can't afford to live here. We know this, I believe the province know this, and I know that our federal partners know this as well. The last time we were here across the street, we were announcing Halifax's successful application under the Housing Accelerator Fund, a program that will bring $79 million to this municipality to further incent housing construction. I'm pleased to see today's accelerator topic announcement. It's further indication that the federal government, and I want to acknowledge Sean Fraser, Nova Scotia, Minister Sean Fraser, who has distinguished himself significantly in this portfolio, and our CN municipalities as strong partners in Canada's success. Indeed, this True North Crescent development began with the municipality donating surplus land so the Affordable Housing Association of Nova Scotia could build. In addition to prioritizing surplus municipal land for housing, we've committed to increasing densities wherever possible pace of this city's growth is evident from the cranes dotting the skyline, as well as from the data. Over the first 2 months of 2024, Halifax housing starts were up over 300%, while starts in Nova Scotia outside the city increased by 3%. The impact of Halifax housing activity made Nova Scotia the building leader in Canada by a staggering margin, and that is virtually all Halifax. But with this blistering rate of growth, we remain challenged to meet the need for housing and municipal infrastructure that support it. Here's the facts. If we're to house more people faster, let's ensure we're building homes that can withstand changing climates. Accessible homes that people can afford, with access to transit, water, recreation, and green space. Wherever housing is built, it should be part of a complete community. This means water and wastewater, emergency services, parks and playgrounds, rec centers, and transit connectivity. Indeed, a recent study done for the Federation of Canadian Municipalities shows that the average new housing unit in Canada requires $107,000 for municipal infrastructure alone. This welcome new federal infrastructure program will help us meet this demand without draining limited municipal coffers. I came here from a rather intense budget debate at City Hall, where we, like cities across the country, are debating new property tax increase. From coast to coast, our cities and communities are finding we cannot effectively support growth if we cannot afford infrastructure. And even as we are responsible for most of the infrastructure people rely on every day, municipalities still only collect approximately 1/10 of all taxation. Municipal funding hasn't changed since Confederation. Our property tax system is simply not designed to meet this extraordinary growth. So I want to thank the federal government, Prime Minister, Minister, members of Parliament. Thank you for your continued support of local government and for seeing us as a true partner in nation building. In closing, I have to say this. Every mayor in the Big City Mayor's Caucus is seized with their city's issues around homelessness and in many cases encampments. Housing supply is absolutely key, but we also need dedicated support and requisite funding to better support those who are living on our streets. They are human beings and they need more help now. I've heard Minister Fraser say this. We will never be able to say that we've met the housing challenge while we have people living in tents in our parks and in our streets. Thank you very much for being here today. We appreciate the continued support for Canada's municipalities. We thank you very much. And it is my pleasure to introduce now the Prime Minister of Canada, the Right Honourable Justin Trudeau.
Thank you, Michael and Adrienne. Thank you, Mayor Savage. Mike, I know recently you announced that you won't be running for another term as Halifax Mayor. So I want to take this opportunity yet again to thank you for your leadership, not only for Halifax, but also as a huge part of the Confederation of Canadian Municipalities. Your leadership, your support for cities not just in Halifax, but right across the country has made a huge difference in the lives of Canadians across this country. You've demonstrated every step of the way. You know how important it is to make smart investments in infrastructure, especially if we want to build more housing. And that's exactly what we're here to talk about today. Je suis très heureux d'être ici avec le ministre Fraser et avec Darren Fisher, qui est bien sûr notre député local ici dans Dartmouth, Cole Harbour. Je suis aussi très heureux de voir les autres membres de notre équipe de la Nouvelle-Écosse, Cody, Lena, Daryl, Andy, Mike, et Jaime. We're taking the challenge of building more homes faster in this country head on. We're doing this through a multitude of programs and measures. Just behind me, here on True North Crescent, affordable homes were built with investments through our Rapid Housing Initiative, and they're being completed as we speak. In October, Sean was here with Mayor Savage to announce investments through the Housing Accelerator Fund that will fast-track the construction of thousands of homes over the coming years. Building more homes faster. This is is how we'll address the shortage of housing options for Canadians. And this is how we'll make it fairer for younger generations who feel like they're falling behind because housing costs are too high. Right across the country, we're making a lot of progress, cutting red tape to fast-track the construction of hundreds of thousands of homes. But we want to go even faster and further. This is why in Budget 2024, we'll invest an additional $400 million in the Housing Accelerator Fund to fast-track the construction of even more homes. Dans le budget 2024, on va investir 400 millions de dollars supplémentaires dans le fonds pour accélérer la construction de logements, pour réduire encore plus les délais et la paperasse. Mais si on veut construire mieux et plus vite, il faut aussi investir en infrastructures. C'est pour ça qu'on va lancer le Fonds canadien pour les infrastructures liées au logement. Et pour le Québec, bien sûr, que ce soit pour le logement ou les infrastructures, on va continuer de travailler en partenariat comme on l'a fait avec l'entente historique de 2023 qui va permettre la construction de milliers de nouveaux logements. As I said earlier, as Mayor Savage has pointed out many times before, if we want to build more homes faster, we also need to be upgrading critical infrastructure, including water and wastewater infrastructure. To do exactly that, we'll launch the Canada Housing Infrastructure Fund with $1 billion available to be allocated in the short term for municipalities to support needs that will directly create more housing, and $5 billion for agreements with provinces and territories to support investments in long-term priorities, paired with key provincial and territorial actions to boost housing supply. Today, we're also announcing that municipalities will be required to take action that will directly unlock housing supply where it's needed most if they want to access the long-term predictable funding coming through our forthcoming Public Transit Fund. Sean va avoir plus de détails dans quelques instants, mais ce qu'il faut retenir, c'est qu'on prend les grands moyens pour que les prix des maisons et des condos redeviennent décents en augmentant l'offre des logements rapidement. Today's announcement is part of our larger housing plan, and we'll have even more to say over the coming days. For Canada to succeed, we need everyone to succeed. We're fighting every day to build an economy that helps every generation get ahead, including by taking significant measures to make housing more affordable. Une chance équitable pour chaque génération. We're focused on fairness for every generation. Thank you for being here. I'm now very happy to pass it over to my friend, the proud Nova Scotian, the Minister for Housing and Infrastructure and Communities, Sean Fraser. Sean.
Hello and welcome everyone. Bonjour, bienvenue tout le monde. C'est un plaisir d'être ici pour célébrer une bonne annonce. Prime Minister, first, thanks for being back here in Nova Scotia. In my lifetime, there hasn't been a Prime Minister who showed up more frequently and made the level of investments that we've seen over the past 8.5 years. To my caucus colleagues, it's wonderful to be with you. Darren Fisher, the Member of Parliament for Dartmouth Cole Harbour, thanks for hosting us once again. And if you'll allow me to go off script for a moment to say thank you and congratulations to my friend Mike Savage on a career of public service. Mike, let me say publicly what I've expressed privately. It's been an honour to work alongside you to serve the people of HRM and of Nova Scotia during my time as a Member of Parliament. Very few of us in elected life actually get out on our own terms, and I want to say congratulations. It's been a heck of a career, and I'm looking very much forward to seeing what you do next. Let me pick up where the Prime Minister left off. Over the course of the next few weeks, we will be publishing a plan to address Canada's national housing crisis. It's going to involve 3 key pillars. The first is building more homes. The second is making sure that we support Canada's most vulnerable. And the third will include measures that are designed to make it easier to rent or to buy a home in Canada. Between now and then, we're going to be rolling out specific policies to highlight how we're going to achieve this. And today, I'm pleased to focus on a few measures that's going to help with that first pillar, building more homes. Specifically, one strategy we can use to do that is to change the way that cities build homes. Over the course of the past 6 months, you'll have seen us rolling out the Housing Accelerator Fund. Now this is a program that has so far concluded agreements with 179 different communities across Canada, including one with the province of Quebec. If you actually look at the kinds of changes communities are making, they're making it easier to build a small apartment in neighborhoods where there's demand. They're making it faster to get a permit by adopting new digital processes to get an approval to build a building. And they're allowing more and more apartment buildings near transit stations and post-secondary institutions, among other changes. The sum total of these agreements is going to result in more than 750,000 new building permits issued over the next 10 years, over and above what has already been projected. And these aren't numbers coming from the federal government. These are numbers coming directly from the cities with whom we've concluded agreements. As the Prime Minister just announced, we're going to be investing an additional $400 million through the Housing Accelerator Fund to help some of those cities who had strong applications but fell just below the cutoff as we were assessing the most ambitious cities. Over the course of the next 3 years, we anticipate this will lead to more than 17,000 new homes. And if we maintain the same level of success that we've enjoyed in the first round, this could total up to an additional 75,000 over the next decade. But we know it's not enough just to incentivize zoning and permitting reforms. We need to help with the cost of preparing neighborhoods to actually accommodate the additional homes that can be built. This is where investing in infrastructure is going to make an enormous difference. The $1 billion that we're going to roll out this fiscal year is going to allow shovel-ready projects to go forward, where home building will be enabled as a result of those projects moving ahead. But the additional $5 billion is going to support longer-term priorities of provinces and territories so they can develop strategies that allow them to maximize housing output. But we're not just going to put this money on the table, wash our hands of the issue and walk away. We're going to insist that our partners make certain kinds of changes that make it easier and faster to build homes in this country. We're going to negotiate agreements before January 1st of 2025 that will require our partners to implement changes, including allowing people to build a small apartment with 4 units in it on land that they already own. It's going to include requirements that they adopt forthcoming changes to the National Building Code to ensure we're building affordable and efficient buildings to provide homes for people who live in this country. We're going to insist that there is as-of-right approval for some of the designs that will be included in the upcoming national catalog of pre-approved designs, so we can manufacture more quickly with certainty that the buildings will actually be permitted. And we're going to work with provinces and territories to implement a renter's bill of rights for the provinces and territories who wish to conclude agreements for us to fund infrastructure. Now, it's important that we put certain parameters around our investments, because by actually making these investments, we want to ensure that communities are passing rules and provinces are passing rules that maintain low costs for new residents to cities and also reduce the pressure on local taxpayers who live in communities now. And when it comes to the major $3 billion annual permanent public transit fund, we're also going to be making sure that cities are adopting changes so we get the most out of these investments. This $3 billion annual fund will support communities that are willing to increase density by allowing more apartments within walking distance of post-secondary institutions. We're going to require that they eliminate parking minimums within 800 meters of high-frequency transit stations. And we're also going to be ensuring that each community of population more than 30,000 completes a housing needs assessment so we have good understanding of where the greatest housing needs are in this country. We're going to work with communities and with provinces and territories who share our ambition, not just to tinker around the margins, but to actually solve the national housing crisis. We can and we will solve this challenge by working together. I thank everyone for being here today. It's a pleasure to be with all of you.
Thank you, Minister. We'll now begin the question period. 1 question, 1 follow-up. First question goes to the Globe and Mail.
Hi, my name's Lindsay Jones, and as you can hear, there's a protest going on. That's what I'm going to ask you about. Today, the Assembly of Nova Scotia Mi'kmaq Chiefs held a peaceful protest outside Department of Fisheries and Oceans office to rally against DFO officers leaving Mi'kmaq fishers without footwear or cell phones in the middle of the night, hours from home. They're comparing it to Starlight Tours in Saskatchewan. People are asking for a response from the federal government today. What do you say to this? Do you condone this behavior?
Obviously, the story is extremely troubling, which is why there is a need for a full investigation on this. I know the minister is properly seized with it. It's important that the laws against illegal fishing be enforced, but there are processes and protocols in place and the way enforcement officers need to behave that we need to make sure was properly followed, because these reports are very troubling. cette histoire est extrêmement troublante. C'est pour ça que la ministre des Pêches et Océans est en train de se pencher directement sur cet enjeu et on va avoir besoin d'une enquête complète. C'est certain que oui, on doit s'assurer que les règles et les lois soient suivies en matière de conservation et de pêche légaux, mais en même temps, il y a des procédures, il y a des processus à suivre pour les agents qui font le travail. On doit s'assurer que ce sont toujours suivis.
Accountability going to look like from your government for this?
Well, I think the first step is making sure there's a full investigation into what happened. And then as the facts are made clear, there will need to be consequences and responses.
Next question.
Adrien Blanc de Radio-Canada. On voit dans les plans qui sont présentés par le gouvernement fédéral beaucoup d'annonces sur le logement, parfois le logement abordable, peu de choses sur les logements sociaux. Est-ce que le gouvernement fédéral doit forcer les provinces à faire plus pour le logement social au Canada?
Au contraire, on est en train de faire énormément d'investissements pour du logement social, du logement très abordable. C'est le travail que nous sommes en train de faire avec les municipalités et l'annonce d'aujourd'hui souligne des conditions que les provinces vont devoir rencontrer pour pouvoir continuer d'avoir des investissements pour créer plus de logements. C'est un travail qu'on fait idéalement en partenariat, mais on sait qu'il y a plusieurs provinces qui sont en train de sous-investir dans le logement abordable et le gouvernement fédéral peut être là pour s'assurer qu'on ait plus d'investissements dans des logements sociaux. On voit qu'on est dans cette situation en partie parce qu'il y a un gouvernement conservateur qui pendant 10 ans s'est retiré entièrement des investissements en logements sociaux. C'est pour ça que depuis 8 ans, on est là pour investir, pour bâtir des logements abordables, pour travailler en partenariat avec les municipalités et les provinces. On va continuer de le faire.
Vous annoncez des milliards de dollars de nouvelles dépenses en prévision du prochain budget, alors qu'on se dirige vers des déficits plus importants qu'anticipés. Alors avez-vous abandonné l'idée d'équilibrer les finances publiques?
Tout d'abord, laissez-moi rappeler aux Canadiens et aux journalistes que le Canada est dans la meilleure position fiscale de tous les pays du G7. On est la 3e plus grande économie du monde avec une cote AAA par les agences internationales. Alors, on a le plus bas déficit, le plus bas taux de déficit par rapport à notre de dette par rapport à notre PIB dans le G7 et on continue d'avoir une approche responsable en termes de fiscalité. En même temps, oui, on est en train de faire des investissements historiques en logement pour que les gens puissent se payer un logement de façon raisonnable. On est en train de faire des investissements historiques dans des soins dentaires pour que les aînés et les jeunes qui n'ont pas accès aux soins dentaires puissent en avoir. On est en train de faire des investissements historiques dans plus de places en garderie à travers le pays et à des prix plus abordables. C'est des investissements qu'on est en train de faire pour assurer une chance équitable pour toutes les générations. On est en train d'inclure les gens dans la réussite de notre pays parce qu'un pays confiant investit dans soi-même de façon responsable et c'est exactement ce qu'on est en train de faire.
Next question.
I'm Paul Bacon from all Nova Scotia, Prime Minister. You have challenged the premiers to come up with an alternative to the carbon tax, and Premier Houston filed a plan last week. I'm wondering, is any alternative that does not include a price on carbon automatically a non-starter?
The Pan-Canadian framework to fight climate change, which was agreed to in 2016, laid out both measures to put a price on the pollution across the country and recognized a federal backstop in situations where the provinces did not or didn't want to come up with their own plan. The federal plan puts a price on pollution that brings down emissions and it spurs innovation and the kind of investments in emissions reduction that we need, while at the same time putting more money in the pockets of Canadians. The Parliamentary Budget Officer estimates that 8 out of 10 families make more money with the price on pollution quarterly checks, the next one which is going out on April 15th, than they pay with the price on pollution. But from from the very beginning, we said this is a federal backstop, and various provinces have put forward plans over time to try and meet that federal backstop. Indeed, Quebec and British Columbia have their own pricing systems that match the ambition of the federal plan, so they go ahead with their own. Other provinces can design a price on pollution that meets that federal level. We're always there to work with them. I have worked with Premier Houston in the past on some various attempts that he made to make that level, but there needs to be fairness across the country. There needs to be rigor. Canadians, particularly here in Atlantic Canada, where the impacts of hurricanes, of extreme weather events are all too well known, we need to step up in the fight against climate change, and we will be there to make sure we're taking it seriously right across the country. But like I said, any province has been welcome for years now to put forward a plan that meets the federal targets.
The argument in some quarters is the whole point is to reduce emissions. If provinces can find a way of doing that without a carbon tax, why not?
The Supreme Court weighed in on that just last year and said that the federal government has the right and the responsibility even to fight against climate change at a national level. With the Supreme Court judgment, it is clear that there needs to be a price on pollution right across the country. Any jurisdiction can develop a sufficiently stringent and rigorous plan that meets the federal benchmark, and we will gladly let them do it. But for now, the federal plan that puts more money in the pockets of Canadians and fights climate change extremely efficiently is what's going to be in place.
Next question.
Thank you. Yeah, Preston Mulligan from CBC News in Nova Scotia. My question is about investigating the killings in Israel. You've been satisfied with the Israeli government is going to go ahead and investigate killings. This time around, 7 8 workers dead. Will you be satisfied with the announcement from Prime Minister there that will investigate those? What do you need him to do?
First of all, it is absolutely unacceptable that aid workers were killed by the Israeli Defense Force. This is something that never should have happened, and we are heartbroken for the families and for the organization that has been putting people in harm's way to counter the extraordinarily devastating humanitarian crisis going on in Gaza right now. We obviously need full accountability and investigation in this. There needs to be clarity on how this happened. And, we need to make sure that we are pushing continually towards a ceasefire so more aid workers are not in danger as they try to respond to the suffering on the ground in Gaza. This organization, World Central Kitchen, is one that many of us know well. I was in a NATO meeting in Madrid a couple of years ago where I met Jose Andres, who founded the World Kitchen, and the work they do all around the world in some of the most dangerous and challenging places to make sure that people don't go hungry is inspiring, and it's work that we need more of. That's why we need a ceasefire. That's why we need to increase the humanitarian aid going in to Gaza. We will continue to be pushing on the Israeli government to allow more aid in and to push for a ceasefire.
My last question is, you've unveiled a series of promises in recent days that require provincial buy-in. Why do you believe that you will have provincial buy-in across the country for these?
We know that Canadians need help. Canadians need help on affordability. Canadians need help with housing. Canadians need help with things like a food school program. So that's why we are stepping up. But we know the federal government can't and shouldn't do it alone. We can't reach the level that is necessary unless we work in partnership with provinces, with municipalities, who also have said repeatedly they want to step up on cost of living. They want to step up on more affordability. So we're there to work to encourage provinces and municipalities to be as ambitious as possible in how they help Canadians in creating more more housing, in supporting kids who need lunches in school, on investing in more infrastructure for childcare. These are the kinds of things we know matter to Canadians as people are squeezed right now. The federal government is stepping up with real investments, and we expect provinces to do their part as well.
Along with global news, you recently said your government is working on both housing supply and demand by turning the dial down on temporary immigration. Does that mean your government's immigration policy has contributed to record high housing unaffordability?
It's really important to understand the context around immigration. Every year we bring in about 450, now close to 500,000 permanent residents a year. And that is part of the necessary growth of Canada. It benefits our citizens, our communities, it benefits our economy. These are the levels that we have stabilized and grown steadily over the past years, because that's what Canada needs to continue to have a strong economy and strong communities. However, over the past few years, we've seen a massive spike in temporary immigration, whether it's temporary foreign workers or whether it's international students in particular, that have grown at a rate far beyond what Canada has been able to absorb. To give an example, in 2017, 2% of Canada's population was made up of temporary immigrants. Now, we're at 7.5% of our population comprised of temporary immigrants. That's something that we need to get back under control, both for the benefits of those people, but as international students, we're seeing increasingly vulnerable to mental health challenges, to not being able to thrive and get the education they want, but also increasingly more and more businesses relying on temporary foreign workers in a way that's driving down wages in some sectors. So we want to get those numbers down. It's a responsible approach to immigration that continues on our permanent residents as we have, but holds the line a little more on the temporary immigration that has caused so much pressure in our communities.
And my follow-up, two Mi'kmaq Elver fishers say DFO took their shoes and cell phones and stranded them in a small town late at night after being arrested for illegal fishing. What do you think of that treatment?
As I said earlier, it's an extremely troubling story. I know that the Minister of Fisheries is looking into this directly. We need a complete investigation to find out exactly what happened. Obviously, it's important that there be enforcement of illegal fishing laws, but there are processes and procedures that need to be followed when someone's apprehended, and we need an investigation to make sure that there are proper lessons learned from this.
Next question.
Hi, it's Lindsay Armstrong with the Canadian Press. Prime Minister, how does government expect to pay for these significant pre-budget spending?
We will be releasing a full budget in a few weeks. Right now, we're talking about some of the elements in that budget, including today's announcement on significant investments in housing supply to make sure that we're both building the infrastructure but also changing the way housing is built across this country. Over the past number of months, 179 different agreements have been signed across the country, not just for different projects here or there like the ones we're in, but to change the way housing is built in municipalities and regions across this country, to make it easier and stronger and faster to build on underused land, to use more federal lands, to concentrate zoning and densification. There's a significant change in the way housing is built across the country, and we're going to continue doing that with this announcement today.
Can we expect higher taxes on the wealthy to pay for this spending?
Core to this Liberal government approach has always been fiscal responsibility. We have the lowest debt to GDP ratio in the G7. We're the third largest economy in the world with a AAA credit rating from the international bond rating agencies. Our fiscal plan is stable and responsible, and we will continue to put fiscal responsibility as we invest in Canadians, in their communities, and in jobs at the center of our upcoming budget.
Mr. Prime Minister Jonathan McGuinness, CTV News. A colleague of mine previously asked about the Nova Scotia's carbon tax solution submission. Did Did you have a chance to look at that, and does it come close to meeting Canada's carbon tax?
There are very clear expectations that our officials are working with interested provinces on. There are thresholds that have to be met to make sure that in every province across the country there is a rigorous level of price on pollution, either through cap and trade or through a direct levy, that make sure that it's fair right across the country and also ambitious enough to meet the challenges of climate change. The officials at Environment and Climate Change Canada are always there to work with their provincial counterparts on any proposals they have, but as the Supreme Court laid out, the federal government has the capacity and even the responsibility to establish national approaches to fighting climate change, and that's what we've done. But of course, this is a backstop that puts more money in the pockets of Nova Scotians, a backstop that is bringing down our emissions. If the local government wants to bring in their own plan that is equivalently rigorous and stringent, they are welcome to. Our officials will work with them to be able to make sure that it hits those levels.
Does Nova Scotia meet those standards?
I don't know the details on this particular plan, but I do know in conversations in the past with the Nova Scotia government that thought about bringing forward its own plan. Its plans in the past did not reach the federal level, but I know our officials are working with them on this plan because we're fully open for every province to move forward in their own way. But it has to hit the level that Canadians are allowed to expect of the ambition in fighting climate change. Ideally, it does what the federal government does, which is put more money back in the pockets of middle-class families so that they can afford to make the investments that are going to continue to fight climate change and create opportunities for everyone.
That concludes today's press conference.
Pardon, pouvez-vous répéter ce que vous avez dit sur les morts à Gaza, les morts à Gaza?
C'est absolument inacceptable que des travailleurs humanitaires aient été tués par les forces israéliennes. On a besoin de protéger les travailleurs humanitaires. Mes pensées sont là pour leurs familles et pour leur organisation qui ont vu à quel point ces travailleurs humanitaires font une différence réelle dans la vie des Gazaouis à un moment de défi humanitaire horrifique. Nous allons s'attendre à ce qu'il y ait des enquêtes rigoureuses pour expliquer qu'est-ce qui s'est passé, mais surtout on a besoin plus d'aide à Gaza et on a besoin d'un cessez-le-feu pour pouvoir éviter les morts innocents. Merci beaucoup tout le monde.
Merci.